what happened. On the next night, I had no choice but to guarantee my success, so I did exactly what I wasn't supposed to do. That thing was to use the roads, and I did it anyway. The trouble was that there were more roads than were marked on the maps, and I quickly got lost. Again. How the fuck was I going to fail? I thought to myself, at this point in my career I had never failed anything. Yet here I was, staring failure right in the face. In a desperate attempt, I started running on the road. Attempting to make it to any waypoint, I was frantic. Needing to orient myself and get back on track to pass this evolution, I ran like the devil himself was chasing me. As I ran, I started to hear footsteps behind me. I quickly ran into the woodline to conceal myself. Ranger cadre were hiding in the woods throughout the course looking for any violations of the rules. As I jumped into the brush and listened, I heard nothing. I waited for a while since I thought the cadre were messing with me, but no sounds of movement came at all as the minutes crept past. I decided to take off again. This time, I skirted the road to remain in the brush. Sure enough, as soon as I started again, I heard the footsteps closer than before, and they were gaining on me. I once again ducked into the woods to contemplate my next move. I decided to run in a different direction, away from the intended point, to throw what was surely the end of my career off track. It seemed to work, and I heard no sounds of footsteps as I went away from my intended checkpoint. As soon as I changed direction to go back toward my checkpoint, the footsteps returned, and seemed to be even closer than before. I couldn't figure out how the cadre were tracking me. I knew they had night vision, but even with that advantage, in the thick Georgia brush, you couldn't see very far. This routine continued for a few hours, and I was running out of time. As I ran toward my checkpoint, the steps returned, right on my heels. I stopped to spot the cadre that were tracking me and saw nothing. No one was in sight. At once I was confused, exhausted, and terrified about failure. I resumed my run, and in my ears, it sounded like the steps were right next to me. Suddenly it dawned on me. I realized that whenever I was heading in the right direction, the steps were there, and when I was going in the wrong direction, they would leave me. Not knowing if it was delirium or sleep deprivation, I decided to run with the steps because time was running out. I made it to my next waypoint, stamped my card, oriented myself to the next checkpoint, and took off as fast as my fatigued body would carry me. For the rest of the night, those steps were with me in the same pattern. When I was heading in the right direction, they were there, and when I would start going in the wrong direction, they would stop. Those steps guided me for the rest of the night. All my points found, I made it back with about 10 minutes to spare. I was 10 minutes from failing Ranger School, 10 minutes from changing the course of my life, 10 minutes from losing my sacred scroll and the brotherhood that came with it, 10 minutes from losing everything that mattered to me most on this earth. If it weren't for my brothers, I would have surely failed. Even if some people say I'm crazy, I know my brothers guided me through that course. Perhaps it was their way of saying it's not my fault. Or maybe they were just saying goodbye one final time. For that answer, I'll have to wait until I see them again. I do know this. If I would have failed, I would not have been in Afghanistan in the winter of 2006. To this day, I can close my eyes and be a fresh 21-year-old Ranger School graduate on the deployment following the loss of our brothers in Iraq. It was a deep loss, holding a heart filled with questions, anger, sorrow, and regret. There is only one way to live as a giant forever, and that is to die as a giant with honor, knowing your sacrifice will feed the fire that burns in the heart of each and every ranger that bears the sacred scroll. As rangers, we are created to fight and win, no matter the circumstances. And once we were trained, we were eager to find a fight. I was trained, strong, and ready to march with my brothers once again on the battlefield. I returned overseas, and the Brotherhood took me to one cold and bitter winter's night in Bagram. My team that night approached the airfield, and the pair of MH-47 Chinooks were already turning and roaring, awaiting our arrival. The glowing blades cranking in the vast blackness, with the crew standing at the ramp waiting to guide us into our seating positions. On this mission, Due to capacity requirements,